Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shauna Kalafi. A live look at the White House this Christmas evening. We are following breaking news from D.C. President Trump announcing that the U.S. has launched airstrikes in Nigeria. This is the post from President Trump on Truth Social just a few minutes ago. He said, "Tonight, at my direction as Commander-in-Chief, the United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria, who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries."
Stop everything. We need to talk about what just happened, because this is potentially one of the most dangerous moments of Trump's presidency, and it's happening on Christmas Day when most Americans aren't paying attention. Donald Trump just announced that he ordered airstrikes in Nigeria. Not a military briefing, not a press conference, not a statement from the Pentagon with details and legal justification. A Truth Social post. The President of the United States just committed an act of war in a sovereign nation and announced it on social media like he's live tweeting a reality show. And the language he used, the framing, the timing, all of it should terrify anyone who understands how authoritarians operate and how quickly democratic norms can collapse. Let me read you exactly what Trump posted, because every word matters and reveals something disturbing about his mindset and his approach to presidential power.
"I have previously warned these terrorists that if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay. And tonight, there was. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes, as only the United States is capable of doing. Under my leadership, our country will not allow radical Islamic terrorism to prosper. May God bless our military, and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, of which there will be many more if their slaughter of Christians continues." That was from President Trump, and we also have a reaction to that from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He said the president was clear last month the killing of innocent Christians in Nigeria and elsewhere must end. The Department of War is always ready, so ISIS found out tonight on Christmas. More to come. Grateful for Nigerian government support and cooperation. Merry Christmas.
He wrote, "Tonight, at my direction as Commander-in-Chief, the United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria, who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries. I have previously warned these terrorists that if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay, and tonight there was. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes, as only the United States is capable of doing under my leadership. Our country will not allow radical Islamic terrorism to prosper. May God bless our military, and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, of which there will be many more if their slaughter of Christians continues." Let's break down what's wrong with literally everything about this, because there are layers upon layers of constitutional violations, dangerous precedents, and authoritarian messaging packed into that single post. First, Trump ordered military strikes in a country we're not at war with without congressional authorization. Nigeria is a sovereign nation. We don't have a declaration of war. We don't have an authorization for use of military force specifically targeting groups in Nigeria. Trump just unilaterally decided to bomb another country and announced it after the fact. The War Powers Resolution requires the president to notify Congress within 48 hours of committing armed forces to military action. But more fundamentally, the Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war. The president commands the military once war is declared or authorized, but he doesn't have unlimited authority to attack sovereign nations whenever he decides their internal conflicts require American military intervention. What Trump just did is constitutionally questionable at best and an act of war without authorization at worst. By the way, I am trying to do my best to gather all the information I can for you and share it with you. Please leave your likes and comments, and I would be grateful if you subscribed. Let's continue. Second, Let's talk about his justification. He claims ISIS terrorists in Nigeria have been killing Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries. That's historically illiterate nonsense. Centuries, Christians faced systematic persecution and mass killings during the Roman Empire, the Crusades, Ottoman conquests, countless religious wars throughout European history. The idea that what's happening in Nigeria right now represents violence against Christians at levels not seen for centuries is absurd propaganda designed to inflame religious tensions and justify military action. Yes, there is violence in Nigeria. Yes, some of that violence involves attacks on Christian communities by extremist groups. But Nigeria is a complex country with religious, ethnic, and political conflicts that don't reduce to simple narratives about Christian persecution. There are also attacks on Muslims. There's violence between different ethnic groups. There's conflict over resources and land. Framing this as primarily about Christians being slaughtered by Islamic terrorists is a gross oversimplification that serves Trump's political narrative more than it reflects reality on the ground. Third, notice how Trump framed his authority and the execution of these strikes. He said the Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes as only the United States is capable of doing under my leadership. That's not how American presidents talk about military action. That's how dictators talk. The emphasis on my direction, my leadership, perfect strikes, it's all about Trump personally, not about American interests or international law or protecting civilians, about Trump's power and Trump's decision and Trump's perfect execution. And he renamed the Department of Defense the Department of War in his post. That's not just a stylistic choice. That's ideological messaging. We changed the name from War Department to Defense Department in 1947, specifically to emphasize that American military power exists primarily for defensive purposes, not aggressive war making. Trump is deliberately using the old terminology to signal a more aggressive, militaristic approach. He wants American power to be understood as war-making capacity, not defensive capability. Fourth, the religious framing of this is extremely dangerous. Trump positioned this as defending Christians against Islamic terrorism. He's explicitly casting American military intervention in religious terms. That's not accident, that's strategy. Trump is appealing to his evangelical base by positioning himself as a defender of Christians worldwide. He's framing American military power as an instrument of Christian protection against Islamic threats. That plays directly into religious warfare narratives that extremists on all sides use to justify violence. Saying Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, is particularly grotesque. He's celebrating killing people on Christmas. He's treating the deaths of human beings, however criminal their actions might have been, as a holiday gift to his supporters. That's not how leaders who understand the gravity of taking human life talk about military action. That's how someone who views violence as entertainment and political messaging talks about it. Fifth, Trump claimed he previously warned these terrorists and they didn't stop, so there was hell to pay. When did he issue this warning? Was it through official diplomatic channels? Was it in some speech nobody remembers? Or did he just make up the idea that he warned them so he could claim they ignored his warning and forced his hand? Because I don't recall any major presidential address where Trump specifically warned ISIS groups in Nigeria about consequences for attacking Christians. This framing makes it sound like Trump issued some kind of ultimatum and then followed through when it wasn't heeded. But that's not how international relations or counterterrorism operations work. You don't just threaten terrorist groups publicly and then bomb a country when they don't comply. There are diplomatic processes, intelligence gathering, coordination with host nations, legal reviews, congressional consultation, none of which appears to have happened here. Sixth, notice there's no information about what was actually struck, how many people were killed, whether there was civilian casualties, what intelligence justified these strikes, or what legal framework authorized them. Just Trump declaring that he ordered perfect strikes and killed terrorists. No accountability, no transparency, no details that would allow independent verification or oversight. Just take Trump's word that these were perfect strikes against the right targets with no collateral damage or complications. That's authoritarian behavior. Democratic leaders don't announce military action without providing details, legal justification, and mechanisms for oversight. They don't treat war as a personal prerogative they can execute by fiat and announce on social media. Trump is normalizing the idea that the president can unilaterally order strikes anywhere in the world based on his personal judgment, and the only information the public gets is whatever he decides to tell them. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth backed Trump up immediately, saying the president was clear last month that killing of innocent Christians must end, and ISIS found out tonight. He also renamed the Pentagon the Department of War in his statement. So this isn't just Trump going rogue. This is coordinated messaging from the top of the defense establishment, embracing more aggressive militaristic framing of American power. And they're doing this on Christmas Day, not an accident. They want this associated with Christianity and protecting Christians. They want the religious symbolism of defending the faith on the holiest day in the Christian calendar. They want Trump positioned as a warrior for Christianity, willing to use lethal force to protect believers. That's deliberate messaging to his evangelical base, and it's dangerous as hell. Think about what message this sends to the rest of the world, that America under Trump will unilaterally bomb countries based on his personal assessment of threats without congressional authorization or international consultation, that we're positioning our military interventions explicitly in religious terms as Christian protection against Islamic terrorism, that our president views military action as entertainment to be celebrated on social media with quips about dead terrorists. That transparency and oversight are optional when Trump decides military force is warranted. This is exactly the kind of unilateral executive military action that the founders tried to prevent by giving Congress war powers. This is exactly the kind of religious warfare framing that leads to escalating conflicts and radicalization on all sides. This is exactly the kind of authoritarian use of military force without democratic accountability that destroys constitutional government. And it's happening on Christmas when Congress is in recess and can't immediately respond, when most Americans are with their families not paying attention to news, when it's easiest for Trump to act without scrutiny or pushback. That timing is deliberate, just like announcing the discovery of 1 million more Epstein documents on Christmas was deliberate. Trump and his team are using holidays to make major moves they know will be controversial while public attention is at its lowest. We don't know if these strikes were justified. We don't know what intelligence supported them. We don't know what Nigerian government officials were consulted. We don't know if civilians were killed. We don't know what legal framework Trump is claiming authorizes unilateral military action in Nigeria. We don't know any of this because Trump didn't provide that information and doesn't think he needs to. What we do know is that the president just ordered military strikes in a sovereign nation, announced it on social media with religious and authoritarian framing, celebrated the killing of people on Christmas, renamed the Pentagon the Department of War, and did all of this without congressional authorization or meaningful public accountability. That's how democracies die, not with tanks in the streets, but with presidents accumulating unchecked power to make life and death decisions without oversight, while the public is too distracted or too partisan to demand accountability. This should be a massive scandal. This should be leading every news outlet. Congress should be demanding immediate hearings and explanations. Legal scholars should be all over cable news explaining why this is constitutionally problematic. But it's Christmas evening, and by the time people are paying attention again, Trump will have moved on to the next outrage, and this will just be another norm he destroyed that we all got used to. So I'm telling you now, while it's still fresh, this matters. This is dangerous. This is Trump testing how far he can go with unilateral military action. And if we don't push back hard, if we don't demand accountability and constitutional limits on presidential war powers, he's going to keep escalating. Because that's what authoritarians do when they discover they can violate norms and laws without consequences. They push further.